I think being smart is ruining your life. Yeah, I said it. Overthinking every text. Replaying conversations like a courtroom drama. Planning 5 future disasters that haven't even applied for existence yet. So last week, I tried something radical. I stopped being smart. I ignored things. I didn't defend myself. I let people be wrong. And what happened next honestly surprised me. Let me show you how. Before you judge this idea, think about the last thing you overthought. Keep that in mind as we go through this. Section 1. The problem with always being smart. We've romanticized being the smart one, the analytical one, the person who always has the right take, the perfect response, the smartest comeback. But constantly trying to be smart is exhausting. Your brain burns about 20% of your body's total energy, even at rest. Now imagine forcing it to overanalyze every text, every tone shift, every facial expression. That's not intelligence, that's cognitive overload. Research in neuroscience shows that overthinking activates the brain's default mode network, the same system linked to rumination and anxiety. A 2022 review in Nature Reviews Psychology found that repetitive negative thinking strongly predicts stress disorders. Translation: the smarter you try to be about everything, the more your brain spirals. You replay conversations. You predict 5 possible futures. You prepare arguments that never happen. And then you call that being responsible. No. It's fear disguised as intelligence. So the more you micromanage small, meaningless things, the less energy you have for the big ones. And once I realized that, I had to redefine what being dumb actually meant. So I set clear rules for my experiment. Section 2. What being dumb actually meant. Now, relax. I didn't start licking windows or forgetting my responsibilities. Being dumb meant something very specific. I stopped trying to mentally control everything. I stopped correcting small factual mistakes in conversations. I stopped explaining myself when no explanation was needed. I stopped assuming hidden meanings in neutral messages. I stopped preparing imaginary arguments in the shower. Radical, I know. Be honest. Which one do you struggle with most? Overthinking texts, winning arguments, or proving yourself? But I handled what was mine to handle. Bills, paid, work, done, commitments, kept. But random opinions, petty disagreements, someone misunderstood me slightly? Not my circus. Psychology calls this selective disengagement. It's closely related to cognitive diffusion in acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT. Instead of fusing with every thought, you observe it and let it pass. Neuroscience shows that when you practice detachment from intrusive thoughts, activity in the amygdala, the brain's threat detector, decreases over time. Less emotional reactivity, more stability. Shockingly, nobody told us this, but choosing not to engage isn't a weakness. It's impulse control. Impulse control is a marker of higher executive functioning, which is literally the prefrontal cortex doing its job. So technically, acting a little dumb required more brain power than overreacting ever did. However, everything in theory is nice. Reality felt different at first. Section 3. The discomfort phase. The first 2 days? Brutal. Not because anything bad happened, because nothing happened. Someone said something slightly passive-aggressive. I felt the urge to respond, to clarify, to subtly win. And I didn't. My brain screamed, "You're letting them think they're right." Yes, I was. And the world did not collapse. My ego hated it. When I felt misunderstood, I wanted a full explanation delivered with slides and references. Staying silent felt like losing. That's the ego talking. Neuroscience shows that social rejection or being wrong activates the anterior cingulate cortex, the same region linked to physical pain. Your brain literally treats social friction like an injury. No wonder you rush to defend yourself. It feels like survival. But here's what I noticed. Most of those threats weren't real. They were micro-threats. My brain exaggerates tiny discomforts into identity crises. Research shows that neural pathways associated with stress make you more reactive over time. So every time I used to defend myself, I was training my brain to be hypersensitive. When I gave no reaction, no explanation, no correction, the world didn't collapse. People didn't suddenly lose respect. Most situations resolved themselves. Conversations moved on. The tension faded without my intervention. That was humbling. The discomfort was just withdrawal from my addiction to control. And once that passed, something unexpected began to shift. Section 4. The mental freedom. By the third day, the volume in my head dropped. No imaginary debates, no emotional postmortems, no overanalysis marathons at 1 a.m. I had time, not extra hours, but more mental bandwidth. Cognitive load theory explains this perfectly. Your working memory has limited capacity. When you stop filling it with unnecessary social calculations, it frees up resources for creativity, focus, and actual productivity. A 2022 neuroscience review on attentional control found that reducing unnecessary cognitive engagement improves task efficiency and lowers perceived stress. In practical terms, I finished work faster. I felt less drained socially. I slept better. Because I wasn't mentally arguing with ghosts. Plus, people didn't treat me any worse. In fact, interactions felt lighter. When you stop competing for intellectual dominance, conversations breathe. The sense of playfulness returned. I joked more. I shrugged things off. I wasn't trying to be the smartest person in the room. Confidence without tension hits differently, which made me realize something deeper than productivity. Section 5. The science of letting go. Let's talk science, because this isn't just a cute mindset shift. It's neurological. Your brain craves certainty. The amygdala scans for threats, and uncertainty often registers as danger. So when something is unclear, a vague message, a delayed response, a subtle tone, your brain wants to resolve it immediately. That urge to figure it out feels productive. It's not. It's anxiety management. If you've ever lost sleep over something small, just comment, "Same." I want to see how many of us do this. Research in 2023 from cognitive neuroscience shows that intolerance of uncertainty is strongly linked to generalized anxiety. People who struggle with ambiguity tend to overanalyze more and experience higher stress. So when you refuse to overthink, you're not being dumb. You're building tolerance. There's also the concept of psychological flexibility, the ability to adapt without clinging to rigid thought patterns. High psychological flexibility predicts lower depression, lower stress, and higher life satisfaction. In simple words, people who can let go are happier. Strategic disengagement is different from avoidance. Avoidance is fear-based. You ignore something because you're scared. Disengagement is power-based. You assess it and decide it's not worth your energy. Big difference. When I stopped reacting to every stimulus, my nervous system calmed down. Less cortisol spikes, fewer adrenaline bursts, more stability. It's basic biology. Fewer perceived threats, less stress response. Plus, interestingly, people respond differently when you stop overreacting. That's when the social experiment took another turn, as others began adjusting to my non-reaction. Section 6. The unexpected social effect. Here's what surprised me most. People became easier. When I stopped correcting every minor detail, conversations flowed. When I didn't challenge every opinion, discussions stayed light. When I ignored subtle provocations, they died instantly. It turns out, tension needs fuel. I had been supplying it. Social psychology research shows that emotional contagion is real. Your reactions influence the emotional tone of an interaction. If you escalate, others escalate. If you relax, others relax. My non-reaction wasn't passivity. It was a regulation. Constantly proving intelligence can signal insecurity. Confident people don't need to win every exchange. In short, the quiet person who doesn't engage in every battle often looks more secure. People opened up more. They joked more. They seemed less guarded. Why? Because I wasn't evaluating them. I wasn't analyzing subtext. I wasn't subtly competing. And the ironic part? I didn't feel less respected. If anything, I felt more in control. Control not over them, over myself. But let's not romanticize this. There's a boundary here, a line you should never cross, because being a little dumb should simplify life, not sabotage it. So let's define where this experiment stops. Section 7, the line. Let's be clear, this experiment was not about tolerating disrespect. It wasn't about ignoring real problems, and it definitely wasn't about abandoning responsibility while pretending you're above it. There's a sharp difference between emotional control and emotional suppression. Suppression pushes feelings down and lets them leak later. Regulation acknowledges them, then chooses a measured response. So, no, you don't ignore everything, you choose wisely. If something violates your boundaries, address it. If a responsibility requires attention, handle it. If a decision impacts your future, think it through. The point is not to switch off your brain. The point is to stop using it as a 24/7 surveillance system for minor threats. Ask one question. Does this matter in a week, in a month, in a year? If the answer is no, congratulations. It's probably not worth your cortisol. Being selectively dumb means conserving mental energy for what truly counts. It means understanding that not every battle is a test of your intelligence or worth. Once you master that filter, life feels dramatically simpler. Not because problems disappear, but because you stop manufacturing new ones. And that realization changes how you move through everything. If this made you think, comment below. What's one thing you're choosing to stop overthinking this week? And if you enjoy psychology-based videos that actually change how you live, make sure to subscribe and join this journey. See you at the next one.